Yes.
Yes, we are. All right, let's move on.
It is literally your worst performing video ever.
Yeah, and we proved that. I think we turned on monetization last year, and our views actually went down.
Because it's going to change how it ranks for you.
Wow, YouTube gave one video half the opportunity as opposed to the other video to get seen, clicked, and viewed. YouTube analytics. We all know that views are important. We all know that subscribers are important, but the question is, what comes next?
So today we're going to talk about 5 metrics that are not views or subscribers, but that are also very important and could lead to more views and subscribers.
All right, Dan, let's talk about our YouTube feelings, starting off with impressions. And this is a number of times your title and your thumbnail is seen by viewers on the platform. How do impressions generally make you feel?
Anxious. I think impressions are the thing that I tie a lot of my self-confidence to as a video creator. And I'll explain it like this. When somebody, and I myself included, posts a video on YouTube, the place where I'm at is in my analytics watching that box. Is it going to be a 1 out of 10 and I get to like walk away and like celebrate the rest of the day? Or is it going to be a 6? I'll take a 6. Hey, like that means I did average. Or is it going to be a 10 out of 10, which doesn't necessarily mean it's literally 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 could mean it is literally your worst performing video ever, and it just doesn't go lower than 10. So figure it out. When I get those 10 out of 10s, and as you know, I've had some even recently, it determines how I'm going to make videos going forward for a while. It takes a bit for me to get out of that mindset of like, I failed, and YouTube said as much.
Interesting. So you're putting your like initial thoughts, efforts, and hopes into impressions, helping you with that box, and it being a 1 or 10 or a 10 of 10. I think I have a slightly different feeling about impressions, and that's more, why is YouTube not helping my video today, or is over helping my video? And what I mean by that is, even on the vidIQ channel, we have varying numbers of impressions, say in the first 24 hours. Like on one day, I'll release a video and it'll get 400,000 impressions. And then on another day, a video, it's on a similar topic, but not exactly the same topic, it might get 200,000 impressions in the first 24 hours. And you think, wow, YouTube gave one video half the opportunity as opposed to the other video to get seen, clicked, and viewed. I have noticed in the first 2 or 3 hours that I think your click-through rate and your watch time can start to impact impressions. It can push it up or it can hold it back. But it does still seem like a curious figure. Like we seem to have a ballpark number of impressions that we may get from videos in the first day. I think once you get beyond 72 hours, then impressions can be very much determined by if it's going to be an evergreen piece of content. I guess my feeling is sometimes a little bit puzzled, but both like in a positive and a negative. And it's ironic that you say, like, is my video 1 of 10? And if it is, I can move on and do something else. And ironically, you know, we're having this conversation as finally, after like a couple of weeks, we have a 1 of 10 video, and it gives us like this creative freedom to just breathe and have a casual conversation about this.
Right now, yeah, we're celebrating ourselves. Like we got a 1 out of 10. And it kind of is that it reaffirms that like, okay, we still got this. Like we know what our audience wants to see, and we finally delivered something they want to watch. Seeing that 10 out of 10 is like the exact opposite feeling. Like my most loyal viewers who got shown this video first didn't click. As you wait for a video to age, you get a lot of different data in from YouTube, but there's never like a really, really clear indicator from YouTube. And they try, but there's never a clear indicator. Was it the title? Was it the thumbnail? Or was it the topic? It's one of those 3 things, in my opinion. You're always kind of left guessing, but what helps is like spending time away from a video, releasing more videos, just trying your best. And then eventually you can kind of group things together and decide, okay, when I talk about X, it does super well. When I talk about Y, not so much. There are clues, but you always have to wait. YouTube is like a big waiting game.
I'd love to know actually from the audience, how does blank of 10 impact you? Because you are right, Dan. Like if you do get a 8, 9 or 10 of 10, when you think it should be something higher, it really starts to make you question yourself, doesn't it? Like, do I actually know how to create content for my target audience? And, you know, we felt that a couple of times, but then when it's a 1 or 2 or 3 of 10, it's like automatically, okay, let's move on to the next video. We know what we're doing now. We're all confident and we're raring to go. So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts about that particular metric that YouTube includes. Because I think I've read or heard somewhere that YouTube may be thinking of hiding that because it may be having a detrimental impact on a creator's mental well-being. And maybe Dan and I are just the tip of the iceberg on this.
I hear you say that, and I think, please don't hide that. Because
we can't help looking at it, can we?
Right. There have been times, though, where that early data helps resurrect a video. Like, take a video that's early in its life, it's not doing well, but there's something obvious about it. Like, the average view duration is good, but the click-through rate is down, which means, okay, when someone does click, they stick with it, but it's getting them to click. And that's immediately where you can at least try and start to narrow it down.
And let me just show you the proof here. We are a 1 of 10 at the moment. Woo!
Okay, so next, let's talk about average view duration. This is the metric that measures the average amount of time a viewer spends watching your video. Rob, generally speaking, average view duration, what are your thoughts? How do you feel when that data comes in?
The interesting thing about average view duration is that it's always delayed. So you've got to wait like 48 hours before you can see it. So that's probably a blessing in disguise. You know, this is the core of the content, and this is what keeps viewers on the platform. And so you should be scrutinizing it like a hawk. But at the moment, Dan, I'm probably a bit superficial with my analysis of average view duration. For the past year, all I've been focusing on is that first 30 seconds. The length of a video can be 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And just the raw length of a video can really affect the overall average view duration. But there's always that first 30 seconds. And that analytics tends to remain quite constant. Like in all of our videos this time last year, it was about 65%. And so that was a real key figure that we've talked about. Like, you've got to, first of all, get them in the door with the title and the thumbnail, but then you've got to keep them with a hook. So I told myself I was really determined I was going to go after this metric. And I think we've raised it by about 4 or 5%. It's up around there, 69, 70%. I'm kind of happy and content of where I am with that particular part of audience view duration. But you know, the hockey stick where it just levels off, I'm still not really paying attention to that leveling off bit. It's just like, yeah, it just gradually goes down. I lose about 20 to 30% of my audience over the duration of a video, and I just accept it. Maybe I'm being a little blasé about it. So, you know, YouTube says it's important. How important do I treat it? Probably not as much as I should do, but I'd love to know if you feel any different or think any different.
Average view duration kind of goes back to a question we get a lot from actually you guys watching. Why don't people comment? Why don't they leave a like? Why aren't they subscribing? We always tell people, like, well, you need to bring them value in the video, you know, and that is really the crux of it. Like, why are you making this video? Like, when you think about like making a piece of content, you got to think very clearly about who it's for and why they should watch it. Sometimes we just get into this mode where we're making content for the sake of making it because we said we were going to. We said we upload 3 times a week. We better upload 3 times a week. And sometimes what gets lost is like the intention behind the upload. And you can see that reflected very, very clearly with a video that has crappy average view duration. Yes, the hockey stick level off, that happens in some of the best videos. Like, you just get that a lot. But where does it land? After it levels off, do people stick around through the whole thing? Are there parts that just drop significantly because it sounded like you were kind of ending the video? Like, this is the kind of thing that you watch and you cannot improve, I think, from looking at one retention graph one time. You need to watch, you need to study, and you need to practice telling better stories, making better content. There's just a lot of little tweaks you can make to your content to improve this gradually. But I certainly don't put the pressure on myself to improve my average view duration tenfold when I upload a new video. Like title and a thumbnail, I put a lot of pressure on myself because there's a lot you can do leading up to a video after it's already made to make sure that that hits the spot.
Dan, click-through rates. A lot of people have talked a lot of stuff about this. In terms of its description, it's the percentage of times it is clicked on versus how often a thumbnail is shown or a title is shown. But how does it make you feel?
Click-through rate is definitely another like point of anxiety for me because that is the one metric that's kind of like, I look at it as kind of like the check engine light for your content. You don't want to see that come on ever when you're driving your car. So when you post a video and it's suffering from a low click-through rate, and in turn you're getting like 6, 7, 8 out of 10 on it, that's where you're like, is there anything I can do right now to bring this video back to life. And of course, you should be looking at your click-through rate over time, but I feel like, at least for me, click-through rate becomes the most relevant at the very beginning of a video's life. Even if I'm not willing to change the title and the thumbnail, I start to take notes for the next video. I'm trying to learn a lesson about this. How can I make sure the next car I build doesn't have a check engine light the second it rolls off the assembly line?
I have got quite sensitive to click-through rate, but only I would say in the first hour to 3 hours. I think after that, it almost becomes a meaningless number to track because it's impacted so much by impressions. So Dan, I think I've now learned that, just again on the vidIQ channel, if our click-through rate drops below 10% in the first 15 minutes, and yeah, I'm talking about the first 50 minutes a video is launched, then I start to get really anxious. And if it's under 10% after half an hour, I'm going to get even more anxious. After an hour, then I'm starting to accept that, you know, it's been shared amongst our most hardcore loyal fans at that stage. But if it's under 10%, I'm thinking the thumbnail mustn't be right. But we have videos that have millions of views that have a click-through rate of 5%, you know, on a daily basis.
Do you feel like the average creator should be sweating their click-through rate when a video first publishes for the purpose of like changing it really fast? Because I feel like that's something that we do, and it's kind of second nature at this point, and we have a whole team supporting us. From my perspective, like the average creator maybe shouldn't be doing that. I would encourage it, but I also can see how it could be really stressful.
I think seasoned creators should probably be doing this. You know, creators who've got 3, 4, 5 years of experience, 10,000 plus subscribers, millions of views on the channel. You start to develop this instinct, even without realizing it. You start to say to yourself, usually when the video goes live, I'm sure my click-through rate is higher than that. And then it really starts to hone in on your instinct. But yeah, as you say, Dan, for smaller creators or creators who don't have that much experience, or they're still in the testing phase, so from content to content, numbers can be wildly different. It's just really hard to pin down click-through rate. I would take interest in it. For any creator, I would be taking interest in it in the first 1, 3, 6 hours. But after that, it does tend to level off, in my experience.
Watch time is another metric that a lot of people find themselves obsessing over. This is going to be the total amount of time someone actually watches a video. It is different than average view duration in that way. So the video length, the quality of the content, the viewer engagement, all that stuff plays into this video kind of getting recommended over time.
I've got to confess, I feel like I'm speaking from a position of privilege here, and probably most creators are who are monetized. But I have a certain ambivalence or meh attitude to overall watch time. I think I look at it from a month-to-month perspective, ensuring that it is of a similar number, if not higher, from month to month. Because we create, generally speaking, the same length of videos from video to video. You know, it tends to be between 3 and 8 minutes. I'm not going to make a video longer just to earn more watch time. However, and I just say this from an experience point of view, when we have made longer videos, be it like 90 minutes or 40 minutes, we rarely do this, but when we do this, those videos tend to perform better for a longer period of time, even though the average view duration may be much lower. So for example, we've got the ultimate guide to getting more subscribers on YouTube, and the watch time on it, I think, is about 10 to 15 minutes per viewer. So the average view duration is quite low, but that's a significant amount of time on YouTube watching one video. And so it still gets traffic today. Should we be making more longer videos? Like, should we make one 30-minute video every single week as opposed to the 3 that we do, which are 5 to 8 minutes? It's something to maybe think about in the future. Dan, do you think I'm being just too piffy and not really thinking about watch time from a smaller creator's point of view?
Well, that's just it. Like, I think when you're a smaller channel and you haven't been monetized yet, like, watch time is very significant to you.
It is, yeah. A be all and end all, especially if you've got 1,000 subscribers. That's all somebody cares about.
Yes, but I'll tell you what, like, anytime I've monetized a channel, and I've monetized a handful now, watch time is still one of the last things I look at, but that's because I have like a lot of experience now. I've just kind of come to realize that as long as you're posting videos, it almost doesn't matter if that video is a minute long or 20 minutes long. The goal is to just kind of get it out there to as many people as possible. That watch time will add up. Yes, longer videos help, but one thing I would never do is try and make a video longer for the sake of trying to get more watch time and feed that beast to get 4,000 hours. The only way I would try to give myself an edge, a leg up, and I've done this, is live streams. Live streams can be a great way to kind of earn that watch time and make content that should be very long. It should be very long form content because it appeals to a certain type of viewer who wants to sit and chill with you, hanging out with whatever it is you're doing.
One more point to think about as well is I think watch time is treated very differently by long form creators and shorts creators, because obviously in YouTube Shorts land, watch time isn't a thing. You need 10 million views. Creators, especially in the short form space, understand that it's not necessarily the length of the short, it's how rewatchable the short is or how shareable it is. So the looping of content to get that, you know, average view duration up above 100% seems to be more important. I'd love to know if, you know, YouTube was going to revisit the monetization requirements. Would they change it from watch hours back to views, or is it too easy to game views? Watch time overall is curious. RPMs, CPMs, Dan. This is how much you as a creator earn from ad revenue every 1,000 views. How does that make you feel?
Like I have no control over anything. For a creator who decides like on one niche, right? They're going to make a channel about one thing. There is only one point in which you get to control your RPM, and that is when you choose your niche. So for example, in the tech space, there's a lot of opportunity for making a lot of money because tech creators are reviewing very expensive products. The advertisers know that. And so people who advertise things like tablets and smartphones are going to pay big money to reach those viewers. Whereas if you have a gaming channel, you and everybody else. So there's way more real estate out there, and advertisers who want to target gaming channels have a lot to choose from. There's like a point in which you get to decide in terms of your interest as a creator, like what your RPM is going to be. But even that, like you don't have a lot of control over it. What are you interested in? Like you're not going to force yourself to be interested in tech if your passion is gaming, right? Like you shouldn't do that. You should just go with what you're passionate about because that's going to be a more successful channel in the end.
I actually think it's pretty cool to see that you're earning revenue by simply flicking a switch. You know, once you're monetized, YouTube makes it so convenient for you to earn some amount of money. I agree with you, Dan, in the sense that CPM, you have almost no control over that. YouTube can change its policies for time of year. How successful YouTube is as an advertising platform is going to impact that revenue. So you shouldn't stake your livelihood on it. RPM is a little bit different because that takes into account, you know, memberships, super thanks, merch. So that does become a question of responsibility. You know, how much do you want to monetize your community? Are you happy for them to be spending like $50 on a super chat just so they get a shout out on a live stream? You know, maybe some people are uncomfortable with that. This is all YouTube's house, YouTube's rules. So they're going to set the split, and it can seem quite aggressive, especially on YouTube Shorts where the CPMs are appalling. And I think they're not going to improve that much in that area of short form content. I think that's all going to lay on the responsibility of the creator to use tools such as shopping, brand deals, affiliates, if YouTube integrates that more into YouTube Shorts. But yeah, the idea of you just making videos and all of a sudden one day you can flick a switch and you can earn revenue from it, that's pretty cool. Awesome. You just don't want it to be your only source of income.
Where it begins to me to like not matter anymore is the level of money you're making on your channel does not determine the success of the videos you're making for your channel. It's a very personal metric, right? Like it only matters to you. It only should matter to you, but you shouldn't weigh that as like, well, okay, if I could get a video to make $1,000 off of AdSense, obviously YouTube will share it even more because it's a moneymaker. As far as we know, that's not how it works at all.
Yeah, and we proved that. I think we turned on monetization last year, and our views actually went down, you know, ever so slightly on all of the videos that we monetized. You know, what we really haven't mentioned here is brand deals, sponsorships, affiliate links, all the external revenue income streams that you have a lot more control of, but it requires you to put in a ton more work. But it's a multiplier effect. If you put in a lot of work on sealing these brand deals, you can start to earn, 5 figures as opposed to earning maybe 3 figures through AdSense. So just remember, folks, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time. It's a nice cherry on the cake, a little bit of extra icing. But in the meantime, you should be putting the ingredients into that main cake of your income to turn it into a proper business empire.
So we just sat here and we talked about what all these things are. Now I think what we should do is from worst to best. Like, what are creators supposed to be focused on when thinking about these 5 different things we've discussed? So what do you think out of these things we've talked about, creators should worry about the least on this list?
I hope you agree with this, Dan, but it would be CPMs/RPMs because they don't directly impact the channel. It is a result of channel success. You earn revenue based on the performance of your channel, not the other way around. Do you agree?
I completely agree. So yeah, number 5, we are going to say CPM, RPM shouldn't be worried about it when comparing these 5 things.
So we're looking at a ranking at number 4 here.
I think at number 4 for me is probably going to be watch time. And maybe that's a bad thing in terms of it says a lot about me as a creator, especially when you get monetized, which, just fun fact for a lot of you creators out there, once you're monetized, ideally you're going to spend more time as a monetized creator than a non-monetized creator. So you won't have to keep getting monetized. And at that point, watch time just doesn't matter. And if you can get those other things down, I still say it doesn't matter. If you can get your click-through rate up and your average view duration and everything else, I'd say you're going to be in great shape for watch time.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I can't find enough reason to say I think you're wrong there. Probably for the same reasons. But let me add the caveat that YouTube in their funnel analytic, which has been around for years now, it does say increased click-through rate and watch time will contribute to more impressions. But Dan, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think watch time is probably number 4 for me as well.
Okay, I'm going to throw it back to you then. What would you say comes in at number 3 in terms of importance?
If we put watch time at number 4, I think click-through rate, depending on the life of a video, probably goes at number 3. Like in the first hour, 3 hours, I'm watching it like an absolute hawk. That's like maybe number 1 or 2. But once it gets past that initial velocity and it's just on YouTube for the rest of time doing its thing, I don't tend to look at click-through rate very much at all. So 3 for me, Dan.
So I'm kind of in agreement with you in terms of long term, but I started to get a little bit like, thinking about, well, wait a minute, when are we talking here? Because I think impressions are something that would fit well in number 3 because impressions come and go, like based on how good you did at making a title, a thumbnail, and a topic. To me, like it's one of those metrics you have a little less control over, and therefore it kind of ranks down a little bit. But when you're talking about like the early success of a video versus its overall lifespan, then I agree with you in terms of like click-through rate being lower on the list.
So you've agreed with me there, right? We're doing it as number 3.
Yes.
Yes, we are. All right. Let's move on. What are we doing? Impressions or average view duration in number 2?
I guess we have to do impressions at number 1. Given that we put click-through rate at number 3, this is where it gets really weird because it does kind of follow the order in which we talked about everything, but not intentionally. I just think it kind of comes down to those watching. Like, when does any of this matter the most to you? Is it right after you upload a video, or do you tend to go back into your catalog and try and learn from the things you've done? Because it's going to change how it ranks for you. I think it's both for me. I'm always going back into our old catalog, always trying to learn from the things we've done in the past. In the moment, when you first publish something, like it's going to be like click-through rate is number 1. Like that's where I'm like zoned in. So I've ruined our rankings.
I guess my argument for watch time being below impressions is that impressions is like the cause and effect of everything. It's the alpha and the omega. Everybody sees a thumbnail and the title, and that is your impression. And when you go through the entire cycle of content, you're on to the next video, and that impression is there again. Watch time isn't impacted, technically speaking, by impressions and click-through rate. Once a person is in a video, then that's when the watch time analytic begins. So, I'm arguing for impressions being at the top because it just impacts everything. Am I right? Am I wrong? Has this discussion got us anywhere, Dan? I just don't know.
So if you want to check out the video that actually did really well for us, I'm actually going to leave it right over here so you can see what it takes to get yourself a 1 out of 10.